Welcome, everybody, to We Didn't Turn Out Okay. I'm so excited today. I have my close friends and our first couple on We Didn't Turn Out Okay. We have Stephanie Gottlieb, founder and creative director of Stephanie Gottlieb Fine Jewelry, and of course, her husband, Brett Gottlieb, BG, high school sweetheart and real estate mogul. And now that I've given listeners a little bit about who you guys are, can you guys introduce yourselves a little bit more about who you are as parents?
Sure. So I'm Stephanie, parent of two kids. Our son Jordan is 6.5. Our daughter Goldie is 4.5. Like you mentioned, Brett and I are high school sweethearts, so we have a very long journey. We've known each other since we're kids, essentially. And I mean, as a parent, it's really for me about balance between my first baby, which was my company, started almost 13 years ago. We have 3 dogs, 2 kids, so we have a full house. Both of us are working parents. So I think balance is probably like the biggest thing that we're both always working on as parents.
And Brett, very first baby.
Yes.
And I am the live-in lover of Stephanie Gottlieb. You got the dream team here, Moma.
I know. I'm honored.
I'm the proud dad of 2 kids, Jordan and Goldie. And I think Stephanie and I as parents, I think we're mainly on the same page on most things. I mean, we've grown up together, so we've known each other forever. And how I think the way we parent is kind of a reflection of kind of our relationship, I would say. And I would say mainly we're on the same page. I'm sure there's some times that we aren't on the same page, but all in all, I think we do an incredible job parenting our kids.
We have a good balance.
Yeah.
We're yin and yang in so many ways, and it works in parenting to have that. I mean, not in the typical like good cop, bad cop, more so like the things that trigger me, he doesn't get triggered by, so he can remain calm when I'm not. And that works because our kids are similar in that way. Like our son Jordan is me in personality, and our daughter Goldie is Brett. So all the things that I love most about myself, I see in Goldie. All of the things that trigger me the most, I see in Jordan, which, you know, makes him, for me, a more challenging child to parent. But Brett has that balance down since he's been dealing with me for all of these years.
I know how to deal with Jordan.
Yeah.
That's such a self-aware comment to have made. Have you guys talked about that before? Do you feel like there's things that trigger you in one kid that remind you of yourself, or it's more just you're the more self-aware and you know that the triggers are probably...
I would say most of the time I look at Jordan, I'm just like, what? Like, I just don't get it. But with my daughter, it's like roses and it's heaven. I mean, but it's me. She wakes up in the morning extremely happy. At nighttime, she wants to go to bed. JP, I call my son JP Jordan. He's just a completely different. And he's definitely more challenging, but I think we're starting to figure out as he matures and gets older, it's getting a lot easier. I would definitely say, and Stephanie and I kind of have known how to kind of create a boundary for Jordan, and we've done such a good job, and we keep kind of like commenting to each other like it's getting better.
Yeah.
So like I think just the maturation of Jordan is helping, it's helping us as parents because we're seeing him improve on where, and he still, of course, he always has his difficult moments, but I think we're kind of like we know how to get through them now. I think we're kind of most of them. We can go into a few of them because like this is one that I want to bring up.
Yeah, I want you to. I was going to ask if you feel like he's gotten better because he has tools that you've like given him, or you just feel like he had to kind of get through the phase.
I think definitely there have been phases, and some of them he's just kind of worked through. Some of them, I've had to really kind of study up on how to address certain things that just don't come naturally. I think Brett takes a different approach where he just kind of tries different things until something works, as I'm reading and, studying how to parent.
And having mommy calls.
Yeah. I buy into parenting tips and tools. I think it's really important. I think none of this is innate to any of us, and we have to learn. I think where we've had tension, if ever, is that I'm trying an approach and Brett doesn't want to buy into the approach, and that can be a challenge. But for the most part, it's, he'll kind of let me do my thing if I'm attempting something. Right?
Yeah.
Do you talk about it before? Like, this is what I heard or read, and I'm going to try this?
Sometimes on like the way to, we drive together in the office in the morning, and Steph will be on these, I call them mommy calls because of you. But like, these mother how to parent type calls where she's on this, call with other parents, and they give their problem and their challenges with their child, and then try to figure out the best way,
Like with friends.
I found someone through social media, and literally the post was how to stop yelling at your kids. And I was in a moment where I felt like I was just constantly yelling at Jordan. I could not get through to him without raising my voice. And I felt like a horrible person, a horrible parent. It's not someone I want to be. It's something that triggers me from when I was a kid. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it, because what could go wrong? Like, it can't get much worse than this. And I do think it gave me some tools, but I think putting them in play is a lot harder than kind of hearing the words and knowing what you should do, but not being able to actually act on it all the time. So it's something you have to constantly be learning.
Yeah. And I think it's hard to just stop yelling without like kind of having other tools. Similarly, like you said, Jordan's gotten better with his regulation. Like, it's hard to just, like, kids can't just like stop. I don't think adults can either until there's like a framework. And I feel like that might be why, correct me if I'm wrong, you want Brett to like know the whole like kind of comprehensive like reason to, or like ways to change it, instead of just like we're gonna stop or let's try.
Yeah, I think it always helps when two people are on the same page and trying the same thing. It's definitely more effective. And I don't like that notion of the good cop, bad cop. Like, I am not signed up to be the bad cop. That's just not in the cards for me. So, and he's always the good guy. So, like, we need to find a way to be on the same page when we're parenting.
I think, like, our biggest challenge with Jordan has always been he loves to play. He loves to always be doing something. He loves to always be active. And Stephanie and I are like, while, we are great parents, like, to get down on our hands and knees and do Legos or it takes, we're good for maybe an hour or two, but not the whole day. So I think like we're on the same page. We're looking at each other like it's like
we need a break.
We need a break.
Yeah.
And that's kind of always really been our biggest challenge with Jordan. It's like how much attention give him.
Right.
Because he always needs attention. And then he knows how to manipulate you when he knows you're not giving him the attention perfectly well, like to a T. He just knows how to
a T.
Just like how to like just get you frustrated. And I think that's always been our biggest challenge with Jordan overall.
I'm like I have like always jumped in when people have said things, and I'm like trying to do more listening. But I feel like when you said he knows how to manipulate, it just like struck a chord, because Matt says that too. And when you think of manipulation, of course, like you think it's people figuring out how to make people do things we want, right? Mm-hmm. So for kids, if that's what they're doing, I'm pushing back a little bit. Maybe it'll help you. Like, why is he trying to get us to do that? Yes, to play, but like, why is it so hard for him to not play on his own type of, if that's what you guys feel? But also, I want to even like backtrack a little bit. Some parents never play with their kids, like, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
So I think there's like a lot wrapped up, like, the spiral. Like, are we supposed to be playing with him all day? Like, what is wrong that he keeps wanting more? And like, how do we set that boundary? And I think so that you don't run into like when he like manipulates and wants more and more, you can kind of like say like, we're going to play for this hour with you, and then we want to see what you come up with. Like, maybe that could help.
Easier said than done.
Yeah. Can you give me the example? I don't know if it's related to this, but you're like, I want to tell a story.
Well, the story has nothing to do with
but
wanting our attention.
I'm scared.
But it's a mommy moment, so I'll give it to you.
Okay.
Our son is in love with Nike Dunk High sneakers. And he has like 4 pair of them, and now he only likes 2 pair. But he doesn't want to change. He doesn't want to get a new sneaker. So I'm trying all these new sneakers that are low tops, and he's just not into them. He only wants to wear these Nike Dunk high top sneakers. So it's like, how do you approach him to like try to figure out a way for him to get different type of sneakers? And we're kind of like,
well, let's back up. The reason we want different sneakers is because he's falling all over the gym floor. I just got a text from the nurse this morning. He's frustrated every single morning putting them on because the laces are a pain. So it's like,
there's reason.
Yeah.
Besides just like we want him to like other styles.
Yes. We don't care what sneakers he wears. Just pick something.
And we got him a few new pair of sneakers. And I said, yeah, you look really good in high top sneakers, but you also need, these type of sneakers. These might not be the ones that you like, but let's keep trying them. But it seems like he's just not getting there yet.
Yeah.
So it's like, I don't know. So he keeps wearing these, sneakers, and it is what it is. And today we got a call from the nurse. He fell on his face in gym.
Oh my God.
It's all red. And we're both looking at each other and he goes, it's the sneakers.
It is.
Does he understand that those sneakers are creating like the more likelihood that he'll fall or the frustration in the morning? Does he associate that or no?
I don't think so, but maybe this fall at school is an opportunity to talk about it, because I know he's going to come home with, a big red cheek and want to say something, enough so that he went to the nurse.
So are we going to blame it on the sneaker? How are we going to approach that?
So now like Always is obsessed with, I don't know if you know, but like the sparkly heeled boots, to the point where people are like, is this good for her developmentally? And I like have given the disclaimer when people have asked, like, she's not like walking around all day like at Disney with them.
Right.
Like, she walks to the car with them and whatever. Have you ever tried doing something like that? Like in the morning, he wants to wear them and then saying, let's bring these for later. I mean, I know it's kind of giving in a little bit, but just more if you feel like you can't get out of the house without that. I think you can set a more rigid boundary. I'm just wondering, I don't want to assume that you can.
You know what? I think maybe setting a boundary the same way we did with the jerseys. Like, he used to wear jerseys every single day, and he had so much clothing sitting in his closet, and it kind of just drove me nuts that he wouldn't wear anything else but the jerseys. So I said, you know what? Fridays are our jerseys day, and you can pick whatever you want on Friday with the jersey, but every other day of the week we're going to wear something else. So maybe it's, these shoes are good for X, Y, and Z, but when we go to school, we wear these.
I think the fall is a good opportunity to do that.
I think so too.
Yeah, it's like funny how you wanted to bring it up today and then you got the call today about it.
Yep.
But he may come home and not associate that and be like, it's not that, or wake up in the morning. And I think it's also habitual, right? Like part of routine. I'm looking at you because I feel like I remember you posted a story. I like think about it all the time. You like landed at 1 a.m. and you're like, but I'm still going to wash my hair and do it because and unpack my bag.
Yep. Can't not.
Right. And like the discomfort of steering away from like what we're used to is a thing, even in adulthood. So he may just like ignore that in the morning and it's just going to be his routine. And I think helping him answer the question or solve this, like, we'll do better than, Jordan, remember yesterday you fell with them, just kind of as he's about to choose, like go to him and say, what shoes do you think you want to pick today? And if he goes to them, just be like, do you think that, these help you balance the way that maybe these could? Not even saying, do you think that's why you fell yesterday? Obviously, you have to see what's authentic in the moment, but helping him answer, I think it's also about control. Like he wants to choose them.
Yeah.
So finding a way for him to choose and empower him that. Like, what do you think will help you feel really secure today and what, like in gym class?
It's also that he loves playing sports, and you can't play sports in high top, sneakers. And I see it all the time, like playing flag football on Sunday. Like you could just tell, like it's the sneakers that's not causing
He wears
him.
them even.
He wears them.
Do you wear
everything.
high tops?
No, I don't even wear high tops. We used to wear the same sneakers, and he still has those sneakers, like these other Nikes. And he used to like that we used to both wear them together, but he won't wear them anymore. He actually this morning said, Dad, I want them to cover around the top part of my foot because the Dunks, the high tops do that.
Like the ankle.
The ankle. And these didn't cover around his
He's like
ankle.
used to it. It might
Yeah,
be like.
it's...
Well,
But
I
you
was
said I
saying
know these. Oh,
we're going on vacation with a friend in 2 weeks. So I was saying, what if we buy the same sneakers for those kids and make it like a vacation thing that he's excited to match his friend, and then maybe he'll keep wearing them, something a little bit more comfortable and athletic than these like heavy Nike Dunks.
I have a feeling when he puts on a different sneaker that he'll it's just opening him up to that. He'll be like excited to wear those. And it's just like breaking that habit.
You tell him he looks great in the sneaker. It's not like, it's more just like, it's not like it's just the fact that like, what about just, it's more for like his safety. Like,
right.
And now literally this morning.
And that's why today you
fell on his face.
You don't have to wait, I feel like, for the vacation. I think you could use that. But the last thing about this before we move on is you said, I know you look good in them or something, like you look great in them. Do you feel like it's about he likes how it looks?
I don't know.
Versus like comfort.
I like to give him a little positive. I always feel like that's a good start with Jordan. Is like you first say, like, yeah, you look great in this.
But maybe looks isn't.
No, or like, yeah, they probably are comfortable. You know, like I always say, like, yeah, they're comfortable. Like even when we get dressed in the morning,
or you feel good,
right? Easy, yeah. You look, yeah, whatever it is, just give them a compliment and then say, but there's also these,
right?
Like try to do a little positivity. I think I probably learned that from you. But a little positive reinforcement always helps to start. Like you don't want to start them in a bad spot.
Yeah, but maybe reinforcing the wrong thing.
Right.
Maybe.
This is actually another topic I wanted to bring up with you guys. So you have a boy and a girl.
Mm-hmm.
And do you feel like you have to parent them differently? This is like new to me. I only have girls. I can't even fathom how I'd parent a boy at this point, even though I've worked with them. But yeah, do you feel like you
got Mo Daddy?
True story.
Yes. I don't know if it's specific to our kids because they are so polar opposite in their personalities, but they're definitely things we need to do differently for both of them. And this isn't even thinking forward about, having a boy who respects women and all of those things that come not that much later in life. But, at this point, it's really the fundamentals. I think, what we've found is that Goldie, fortunately, you set a boundary and she's good with it. Like, you don't have to double down on it. You kind of never have to say it again. She's really quick to just take to it and move on. And Brett is very much like that, too. Like, you have a problem, you say something, and then you move on.
Adaptable.
Jordan is not like that. And I think that's really challenging, is like constantly feeling like you're saying the same thing over and over and not seeing a change is hard. But he's just a kid who's willing to kind of push buttons more than she is. Like she, in some ways like me, she wants to kind of be this like goody-goody, like I do the right thing and mommy and daddy are proud of me.
Right.
And he feels like he gets more attention when he's doing the opposite.
Right. Yeah. When he's asserting himself in these other ways.
Yeah. And I think part of that is being, first child, and then you have a new sibling come in who's getting all this attention. And, he was a 2-year-old at that time.
Right.
So kind of acting out was his way of getting the attention back. And I'm not sure we've quite broken that habit.
Right. Like navigating that and then getting into this like new temperament almost. Do you feel like I know he was so young, but that's when you really saw it?
That's for sure when it started.
I mean, it coincides with like terrible twos anyway, which I hate using that term, but when they're like being more assertive anyway. But it's so interesting because I feel like there are things that they start to do or get in the habit of doing behaviorally that become part of who they are. And it's why, kids who don't have siblings, you say are a little bit, it impacts your whole personality.
Yeah. I feel like we've defaulted to kind of dividing and conquering, which I'm not sure is the best strategy. But I mean, the way it ends up is Brett does things with Jordan on the weekend and I do things with Goldie on the weekend. And of course, we have family time and do things all together. But whenever there's 2 activities, that's how we split it up. And this weekend, with intention, I took Jordan on like a ski weekend, just the 2 of us. And Brett hung out with Goldie this weekend because I was feeling sort of a disconnect. Like we just never spend time together. And he's even said, you're always with Goldie. And it's true, but it's just kind of defaulted that way. Like Brett has an easier time managing Jordan than I do. So I think partly we have to kind of challenge ourselves to go the other way.
What have you said when he said you're always with Goldie?
I'm sure in the moment I say things like, that can't be true. And, we all spend time together and daddy likes to go to sports with you and things like that. Or, you can come get a manicure with me, but Goldie likes to get manicures. So there is always this kind of back and forth of, it makes more sense that I'm with Goldie. And I
Right.
think he feels that a little bit.
And then this weekend, did you feel like you were running into, because you were alone with him, running into what you were saying before, like you can say things over and over and
A little bit. I mean, the sneakers were a trigger every single morning.
even to
Just
the mountain?
getting them on. Yep. Or like, you know, we're
What
at
about,
a
like, you're
mountain
gonna
and it's
ruin that?
freezing. We need to wear boots today, and he didn't want to. But I, you know, and there were so many other factors this weekend, like friends getting to drink soda and we don't let him drink soda, or, you know, friend is eating candy at 9 a.m. and we don't do that, or friend has iPad and now we have to go get our iPad. So that's like a whole other dynamic.
I'm triggered.
I know. And it's challenging when you travel with other people. You kind of have to either all get on the same page or be butting against your kid the whole time. And it's hard. So that'll be a fun
And
thing
I had
we
a
have to deal with.
delightful weekend with Goldie.
You did.
And she's the easiest thing. It's like incredible.
Do you feel like Jordan senses that?
Yes,
That
definitely.
she, and like they
And that's why
have
he
fallen
goes
into
tit for
these
tat.
roles?
He goes tit for tat because he knows that she's kind of like a goody tissues.
Two shoes.
Two shoes, whatever.
That was so good. I'm like, can you do that?
But like, I think he does sense that a lot.
Yeah.
And that's why, you know, he does like, he gets upset. And, it's how do we cope with it? But I think we do a pretty good job.
We do our best.
Yeah.
It's hard.
JP
It's really
will
hard.
resort right to crying. And sometimes I would look at him and go, bro, we don't have to cry. Let's like talk it out. And I have seen it, like where it used to take like a minute to get him back. Like last night, I forget what happened. Oh, it was about homework, to do homework. And he got really upset. And then he started to cry like, you know, I don't want to do it tonight. I'll do it tomorrow night because it's not due till whatever, Thursday. But then I looked at him and I go, bro, we don't have to cry. Let's talk about it. Why don't you do half of it tonight and half of it tomorrow? And he actually ended up doing it.
Yeah.
So
he's rebounding.
He's been
quicker.
rebounding a lot quicker.
And yeah, and I think it's a testament to kind of like modeling that. Like I think when you're responding to his not calm with calm, which I think is harder for people like, you know, us in certain situations when we're triggered. Like when you respond to a crying kid, you want to be like, it's okay, you know, kind of like meet their emotion. And I think that helps. You're like radically responding in his eye, like the energy doesn't match. And so it's like co-regulation, like daddy's so calm and that can be so hard. But I also think what's underneath, like, you know, the quick to emote thing, can also be super helpful, but it's hard to know right away. But just one thing that you had said earlier about, he's like, you're always with Goldie. I was curious what you said back and you know, kind of the back and forth. And I think for someone like Jordan, just because I relate a little bit in my kids, is like conversations. Like even when you're like, bro, you don't have to cry, you know, you can say that and then ask him, what do you think we should do? I feel like he will love being like the problem solver.
Yeah.
Or like, does it feel that way that I'm always with Goldie? Instead of like, I do the same thing, like explain and like, because it's my like guilt and spiral.
Yeah.
And so it's hard to do. But I feel like for someone like him, he'd like appreciate the connection that happens in the conversation around him being able to problem solve these things. So it sounds like that it's not necessarily like boy, girl, but just like their temperaments also.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah. I think that we can go to another topic, which is like boys in sports.
Yeah.
And Jordan, you know, loving sports and like how much, you know, and do you want to push, should I be pushing him to do it more or does he want to just do it himself? So I just feel like, you know, that's probably a topic we can get into because I think Jordan, he's interesting with where he loves sports, but then he also loves doing, you know, art, architecture, drawing. And it was actually funny. My dad was in town last week and my dad said to Jordan, I was listening, he goes, girls love when boys play sports. And JP,
Jordan said that?
No.
Or your dad?
My dad says like girls love, you know, they had just been coming back from basketball and I was coming in the door. And then Jordan goes, girls also like when guys draw.
You said that?
Yeah.
I love that. And how did everyone react?
No, my dad's like, totally. Yeah. But I think like we live by a motto of like you do you. Like that's
yeah, I
like my
love
saying.
that.
And I think that definitely is a huge wave in our house where like you do you. Like I think we don't push our kids to do anything. Like there were points where I was a great soccer player growing up. I'd love if he played soccer more. We built a soccer field in our Hamptons house. But it was more of like if he wants to do it, go ahead and do it, but we're not going to push him. But we do see a lot of parents pushing their kids, and it's like it is triggering.
Wild.
It's triggering. It's like, whoa. And I think we just we let him do what he wants. I think he's trying to figure it out.
I think you answered it yourself, though, in terms of like knowing when to push. First of all, I love that was his response. It sounds like he said it so confidently, which means that you guys have like allowed for that space.
Yeah.
But I think there's so many times I think about that too. Like, oh, I was dancing starting at 2 and then like was so much more, doing competitions, and are they falling behind in that? But is that even what they like? And you kind of like go through that whole thing. But I think that just inviting is all that we could do. And then also knowing what's behind it. I'm sure if you asked all of those parents, not that you're going to, why they're pushing, the reason isn't about their kid. Right. Like, it's not like, oh, I know he really wants to, but he's just faking. Like, it's because the parent wants it for something within them. And I think that's why it's always about like being aware of what's behind it. Like you said, you loved soccer, so you spent the time and money to create this space for him, but you're okay with like the outcome.
Yeah. Goldie may be my soccer player.
Maybe. I struggle with that too. But I do think that there's also that fine line when your kid asks to do an activity and then you get there and maybe they're hesitating for reasons not like you want to make sure it's that they just don't like it. Should you keep having them try? Do you run into that where you feel like he likes something and wants to try it, but then he's
I think with Jordan, he's a true type A and wants to be the best. So he shies away from the things that he's not, very quickly good at.
Right.
And we're kind of hands off. Like, let's just keep letting him try. I don't think we've ever really let him quit until the end of something. Like, we're not going to pull him out of football mid-season. We're going to show up every time. And if he wants to sit on the side and watch his friends, then it has. The first 3 games of football, he really didn't want to play.
But now he plays.
Right. So we gave him the opportunity to figure it out. And I sat on the side and watched him.
But you weren't like saying you have to go in. You allowed him to sit.
Yeah.
No,
watched him do sit-ups on the side.
It's interesting because like at first, like when he I think he hurt himself like the first time, his sneakers hurt himself, knee hurt, then he was out. And like there's a part of you, it's like, oh, this is so like, why is he doing this? Mm-hmm. But then you just kind of like, all right.
And you don't act on that feeling?
I don't act on the feeling because I know that that's Jordan. Like my dad used to always say growing up, I always needed like a 5-minute warm-up. Whenever I got somewhere, before I would go hang out with friends or whatever, I was always like attached to my dad. And I think JP has that too, where it's like he needs a little time to get acquainted. And then once he's acquainted, he's off. And I think it took like 2 or 3 football games for him to realize. And now he says it's his second favorite sport.
Right.
You know what? It's like, oh, great. So we're going to keep playing to it and we'll go on Sundays to flag football. He loves basketball, so he wanted to do like extra basketball during the week. So we added another basketball practice during the week.
And he's truly leading you guys in like what?
He's telling us. We're not, but I think we're very relaxed parents in that sense. Like I'm not pushing him to do anything. I want to see like architecture. We sign him up for he loves architecture. But I think he also loves drawing because he has like a girl in his class that he really likes. And one of his other friends told me that Jordan talks to the girls. He has girlfriends, and like his best friend Buddy is like doesn't talk to girls. So like Jordan likes this girl and this girl, But I think he like creates letters for them or whatever, draws
that's
whatever
how he
it is,
connects with her,
and that's how
probably.
they connect. And he does love. I mean, we're definitely seeing that in Jordan. So we'll also play to that. He'll do architecture after school.
And I think when you see parents pushing, not that you're following these families, but any indirect pressure or direct pressure, I feel like backfires. It takes the fun out of it. It takes the real reason that we want kids to explore all of this stuff, even if you don't see it right away. They're not doing it for themselves. And I think that goes with like pressure to eat or just do anything. But,
Yeah. I think for us, it's been like setting them up for success and to try new things. I mean, Goldie last semester, I guess, came home and said she didn't want to do ballet anymore.
Oh my God.
And
was
of
that
course
devastating?
I was really upset about it. And at first I wanted to keep making her go. And every time she came home, and my nanny said she was crying the entire time. And then when I got to the bottom of it, it was because all of the girls who had been in her class with her had left the class and nobody told me. And so now she's been going to this ballet class with a bunch of strangers and a new teacher, and nobody said anything. And like, this is where being a working mom is a detriment, because I'm not seeing it with my own eyes. Had I been there, I would have known. Of course, she's not going to be happy with nobody she knows and a new teacher. It wasn't about ballet. It was about the setup. She wasn't set up for success, and nobody told me until it was too late. So now it's, how can I proactively rally her friends to be doing things with her so she enjoys it?
You do a good job at that, babe.
I mean, I try, but it's interesting. Like, Jordan has all of these buddies and they all like to do things together. Goldie's crew, like, all the moms are planning different activities without talking to one another. And I'm kind of like sitting here like, how can I help Goldie enjoy herself?
Succeed.
Right.
Without having any of that companionship. And I do think that's a big part of trying something new. It's much harder to walk into a room by yourself than it is with someone you know next to you.
Especially like at that young age. Once you fall in love with like whatever it is, it's different. But I think it's also, the reason why it's so important to figure out like why a kid might be sitting on the side or crying. It had nothing to do with ballet. And then like if instead you keep forcing, which I know you didn't do, it was more like, let's finish this out. They then associate that with something negative. A similar thing happened to us with, all of Tessa's friends were trying cheer instead of hip hop, and no one told me at first. And then when I asked her, I was like, thank God I knew before Tess went alone to this class. And then when I asked her, she's like, no, I still want to go. And so she's still going. She's older, but I feel like also she was able to be prepared. Had she showed up and not seen her friends, that's different. Yeah. She had already fallen in love with this activity.
I also think Goldie's very much where she like needs that companion to push her. I think Goldie's a lot
like a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas I think JP is more independent for sure. But I think also like in the beginning with Jordan, like whenever we would go to parties, he would always be by your side. He wouldn't leave our side. And that was like, 2-3 years, but as he's gotten older, now when he goes somewhere, he goes off on his own. So it's just like time.
What did you guys?
And we were freaking. It's like we're at this party and all of his friends are here, but he's sitting with me. But then,
of course, your first instinct is to be like, all right, well, then we're not going to any more parties if you're just going to hold my hand the whole time.
Right.
And I'm sure I said something to that effect at some point.
Oh, yeah, I have too.
Like, you're like freaking out in the moment. Like, my kid is the only one not participating, sitting on the side crying. But he,
found his way.
He grew out of it.
He found his way.
I was just at the birthday party that you were at. I think you were away, and you saw that Tess was playing basketball with me the whole time.
Yeah, she was playing with me.
But I didn't feel right.
She was playing with me.
I don't even know if Nell was on the bumper car, but I think that's okay. She didn't know anyone so well. I think there's just so many different ways that we can navigate that. I do think that you allowing Jordan to be with you at all of those allowed him to then find his way, similarly with the football games. And so now you know that about him.
Yeah.
Goldie's not like that at birthdays.
She's definitely shy. I mean, I've gotten to the point where I give my kids the option if they want to say yes to a birthday party or not. Because
so smart.
I'm not going to make Goldie.
For us too.
It's not the worst.
I have not taken that.
But I mean,
route.
to force her to go to a fast break sports party that she doesn't want to participate in, she's not that close to the kid. For what? I'll send a birthday gift. I want them to be going if they want to be there.
How do you RSVP?
No. It's okay to say no.
I know.
Everybody invites everyone else as a gesture, but it's not necessary to say yes to everything.
You just do the no. I know. I'm working on that too.
You do us. You do you.
You do
right.
You do you.
I wanted to ask you guys, as we think of longer term with our kids, I know it might be a ways out, but do you feel like there are bigger kids, bigger problems. I don't know if they've already come up for you, but like if your kid feels left out, or like you said, he likes this girl, like has anything happened that you could share?
You could share about Jordan, which is interesting. The
bus.
No, not the bus. You could talk about that one. I think he's starting to not maybe experience bullying to him, but he's seeing bullying going on. And he'll say certain things to that effect and ask us questions about it. But this one thing happened at basketball where a kid came up to him and says, "You haven't scored yet." And I watched the whole thing because I go to Fridays is my day to be with Jordan. I come home, I'm with him, I get him off the bus, we go to basketball together, and I see him play every weekend. So I've seen his evolution over time, with his friends and playing. And the kid goes to him and goes, "You didn't score yet." You're like, why haven't you scored yet? You haven't scored yet. And JP looks at him and goes, "You haven't scored yet either." So after, on our way home, I had asked him, I was like, what happens if he would have scored? Like if he had already scored, what would you have said to him? He would have said, "Doesn't matter. Maybe I'll score in the future." Like he had a good answer to it, to the question, which I think was pretty mature,
Huge.
which is huge of him. But I think he's also the type of kid where like it kind of goes off his shoulder. Because I think other times where like he hasn't been like the best, like he'll kind of just like brush it off and just move on to something else because he is very type A in the sense that like he wants to be the best, and if he's not the best, he'll like find a way to, but I'm sure it impacts him. So I think we're starting to see but there's definitely bullying going on. He's starting to experience it. And I think he's right now, I would say that he's set up for success on how to deal with it. But of course there are other times where, but the bus situation was a long time ago. He was younger.
I think what's interesting with Jordan is that he likes his friends a lot and he talks about certain kids all the time, but he doesn't seem attached to any one or two kids in the way that I've seen, maybe Goldie is or other kids he's with.
That's me.
Right, like he's not going to feel like left out.
He doesn't really. I kind of love that for him. I mean, part of it makes me feel like, are we not putting him in front of those kids enough? Like, are we not setting up enough play dates? Are we not making sure that we're all doing family things together? And frankly, like growing up, my family was the one that like they saw everyone was going here and they would book a trip here. And like we're kind of like that in some ways.
Did you like that growing up?
I think,
or did you feel
like
left
my
out?
parents never meddled in my friendships. They never made me be friends with anyone. They never, tried to make play dates with people unless I asked for it. And we're kind of that same way. I think we turned out okay.
Yeah.
But
didn't. That's why you're here.
Maybe we did. I don't know. Okay. I don't know if it's right or wrong. There are definitely other kids who are always together and you see like it's always those three kids,
Yes.
and he's just not like that. So I don't know, in those moments of bullying, he does always do the right thing, which makes me really happy. But I don't know if, he kind of walks away from
Brushes
things
it off,
because he doesn't have those deep relationships where it really impacts him. I'm not sure.
We're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I think it's also about not feeling like someone said something like that and then a kid internalizing it for them to feel differently about themselves. To me, that's like the most paramount thing that you'd want for your kid. Mm-hmm. When I feel left out, it means something's wrong with me is like exactly what we don't want. I feel left out and that kind of hurts my feelings. Like I want to play with them, but I know that it's nothing about me. Mm-hmm. Is you can be hurt or bothered by it. I think what he's doing is pretending, or maybe not pretending. I'm not hurt or bothered, and I don't feel differently about myself, which could be also another reaction. But maybe it upsets him a little bit, but I don't think it's changing how he feels about himself, which is like all that we would want.
Right.
Their feelings are going to be hurt, their heart's going to be broken, but we want them to know like I'm proud and love who I am no matter all of those things, and it feels like you guys have that down. But I think in terms of like the friendship thing, like I also didn't grow up with like my parents meddling, and I sometimes am like, wait, am I supposed to be like proactively creating those things? But then I see that like my kids gravitate on their own, and like I think similarly with pushing your kids into sports, like yeah, I guess you can set up friendships, but again, like who are we doing that for? Mm-hmm. So I don't think that should impact like if you should be unless he says to you like, I want to make
Right.
more plans and I feel left out from them.
It will be.
I mean, those things will just get harder as
Right.
they get older.
I mean, there are definitely going to be times where his feelings are going to get hurt and Goldie's feelings where they're going to feel left out.
Mhm.
And we'll have to deal with it when the time comes. But I think fortunately right now with Jordan, he's starting to experience bullying for sure because it's definitely happening. And right now I just see him kind of brushing it off his shoulder. And I don't know if that may not be the right way. And
No, you asked him.
Yeah.
like,
But I asked him, I was like, what would you have said if it was this situation? He would be like, who cares, bro? That's like what he would have said to him if he had scored. But luckily the guy didn't score. So he was
Right,
like,
it was
you didn't score
perfect.
either.
Good
It's perfect.
Yeah, you can go a step further, like when you have those conversations and be like, did it bother you when he said that? He's acting as if he didn't, but I think if it's like one-on-one with you and you say, did that bother you? You can like learn a little bit to see like what's really
Probably how did it bother you? I didn't think of
No, or
saying that,
next
but that's true
time.
next time.
like or how did you feel about it?
Right.
Mhm.
Do you want to tell me the best story?
The bus. I mean,
The bus is a whole like Jordan gets on a bus every day at 7:25, in the morning, and he takes a bus back, and he's on the bus for like 25 to 40 minutes a day to school. So a lot happens on the bus.
Right,
A
with
lot of dynamics.
no adult supervision.
And also, he's probably one of the only kids of his friends where one of his good buddies is not on his bus.
Right.
Like all of his other good buddies are on different buses. So it's like, it's like when he has an iPad. We can get into this.
He didn't have an
He
iPad.
didn't have
I
an
remember
iPad.
we were like finding activities for you to
Yes.
give to him.
He didn't have an iPad. A couple days he came home saying this older kid was being mean to him on the bus. And so, of course, I go into like crazy mom mode and I'm texting all the other moms I know on the bus to be like, what's the deal with this kid? And why is he picking on Jordan?
And at basketball, I'm asking all the parents, like, because a lot of kids have older, brothers, sisters on the bus too. Like, do you give iPads? And it was kind of balanced. It was a mix, total mix. There's no right or wrong.
Anyway,
I went out and got him an iPad.
Brett bought him an iPad.
Wait, not because you felt he was being teased because he didn't have one, but you
No,
felt like it would be a way
It
for
was
him
a
to like check out.
distraction. Exactly. Like, keep yourself busy. Don't get involved. Just kind of do your own thing. And so he got him the iPad.
There's also his good buddy who's on a different bus also has an iPad. So I've seen him over the last, before this, he's doing just fine. He has an
Yes,
iPad.
of
He's doing
course.
great. He has older
Yeah.
siblings, but he has an iPad. He can FaceTime his dad. Like, there's nothing better than getting
No.
a text message from your son on the bus saying, Dad, I love you.
And it's very cute.
Yeah, it's
The moral
I
of the
love
story
that. Oh, he
is-
does do that?
yeah,
Yes.
and he'll
I
FaceTime you. And then
Yes.
sometimes my
I'll text
dad
my
or
sister, my dad.
or my father-in-law will say oh, JP just FaceTime me.
Yeah.
He was on the bus. What's the
So
moral of the
anyway,
story?
day one with the iPad, guess who becomes Jordan's best friend? The bully is now sitting next to him every day, teaching him how to do Minecraft.
We're FaceTiming and I'm seeing the
Oh
kid
my
and I'm
God.
like, this is,
Are you like
yeah,
getting away?
yeah, but they become
Now they're friends.
and they love Minecraft.
So it's
together.
like, okay, the technology facilitated this. It wasn't really my first choice. It's not something I wanted, but it made the problem better.
And
I
so
mean,
he-
now he's like the popular kid on the bus. Everyone wants to use his iPad.
I mean,
You know?
FaceTime,
Again.
like the girl he likes is like, hey Brett, you know,
Yeah.
it's like become but it works and he's happy. He always wants to make sure he has it. And like, of course, there's some challenges with the iPad and making sure he's not doing things that he shouldn't do. But
you
I feel
can
like
monitor
this is
that.
like the
Yeah.
life we're in now. It's like we have to
Right.
embrace that like social media or like all of these technologies. They're in front of our kids. We're every day, Steph and I are on our phones. So how can we stop them from
I
being
know.
on it? Like you gotta let it flow. And I've always come from I had a TV in my room since I was born. And I don't watch TV anymore because it kind of was just given. It was like, it was always there. So it was like I urged to have it. So I feel like we're trying that with the iPad. I don't know if if it's going to work or not, but I think that's just how we're approaching it. And it's ended up working out. So
yeah, I think there's like three things. One,
there's a lot.
no.
There's a lot I just threw at you.
I know, and I always like list my responses. It's like the way my brain works. One is you said he's like the popular kid. Now this friend likes him. Again, have you ever like, not when he gets off the bus, just like in a moment when you're just talk to him about it? Like, do you remember when you were on the bus before, like helping him kind of tell you how he's kind of like processed that transition? because you also want him to, you said he's like attached to it. You don't want him to think that that's why, even if it's like that's what invited people in,
Right.
you know? So I think there's something there just so he doesn't feel like that's the reason, like that he's now has these new friends, or just that kind of just opened it up. And then
Just made
I
it
feel,
easier.
that's what I believe
about
too.
it.
And
Yeah.
then and maybe not, but just when you said he's attached to it, maybe it's just because that's what technology does. But I feel like you're feeling like it's really taboo that you like caved into the iPad. And I think, again, like it's moderation. I also just introduced them to travel. And I think it's the reason I did was the same thing, that I felt like if I didn't, then they would crave and want it more as they got older. It's something I'm struggling with. And I'd love, to get into this before we have to finish, is like the balance between like working and being a parent. I think if we're going to set boundaries, like you can use your iPad at these times, we have to do that for ourselves too.
Mm-hmm. Which we do.
Have you done that?
We try.
We try, yeah.
We've definitely had moments where we're better and more committed.
We leave
to
our
being
phone
off our
upstairs and we
phone.
go downstairs with the kids.
Do
Yeah.
you tell them like we're going to,
We haven't really
you just do it.
made it
Right.
a thing, and maybe we should. I don't know. It's definitely
I don't
hard.
but I think we don't want to make that a thing. We need to do it ourselves.
Right.
To leave the phone behind. But the only thing about not having the phone is then when your kid does something really cute, you don't have your phone to capture the moment. But that's kind of where like our mind
I
goes, and
know.
they're like, oh, where's our phone? But you don't want to, you just kind of live in the moment with our kids. And I think that's one thing that we're trying to do a better job of, and putting the phone away.
Yes, it's so true. It's something that I've done more of too. And there's even times I've like thought back to a moment, and when I don't have like a picture or video of it, I'm like, oh, that sucks. But I know it means that I was like more present, and it's like a sign of that.
Well, let's talk about my wife for a second.
Yeah.
With being a working
That's what I
parent.
wanted to make sure.
Steph was born to be a working mom. She loves working. She's a hustler. So it's witnessing how she balances being a mom and being, a working mom boss. It's awesome.
Thanks.
I give you a lot of credit, because it's tough, because she's in love. Like, what do you make your priority? You always want to make your kids your priority, but Steph also wants to make her job her priority, and then find some time for me. But I'm okay.
A little bit.
I'm good. You take care of me. So I think but I think it's more of the balance is definitely more difficult for Steph
Yeah.
than me.
Why do you think? The nature of the work, or
Because
mom,
Steph
dad?
loves her business. She loves just being on the go and being, her mind is always going, and it's a completely different animal playing with your kids and being a mom. It's just they're how she does her business versus how be a parent is just two different.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just think
And
there's
you definitely
there's
struggle
also
with it.
logistics. Somehow it's been defaulted to moms to do all the planning and make sure that, our caretakers know where they need to be and when they need to be. And if we're setting up play dates, it's mom doing it and not dad. And I think Brett has done a good job of taking on certain things, not everything.
A good job. What about a great job?
You've done it. You've made it.
She won't say.
You've made a very big effort to help.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of it still falls to me.
Right.
Your
Even
mom.
Do you want it more to fall on him, or do you feel like it needs to be
I don't.
you?
I think, in my professional life, I have slowly learned to let go of control.
Delegate.
I think I'm capable of doing that in my personal life and home life too. But it's almost like it's just not organized if two people are doing it. Like one person needs to be the
Spearhead it.
go-to
Right.
to make sure that everything is getting done and all the boxes are being checked, because there's so many emails and, so many things happening in a day, and we're managing so many different people. And I just think things slip through the cracks more if we
Right.
do divide.
But you could hand over like whole buckets.
Yeah.
Which I
mean,
feel like you guys
Brett is
act-
spearheading Sleepaway Camp. Like, that is all him. He set up the tours. He's reached out.
Pretty easy.
Okay, good. So then maybe you can take on more than I think you're capable of.
Yeah, that's like really great that you can like hand over. I feel like if I handed that over to Matt, he'd be like, oh, they're not going to go.
No,
And I didn't go. I came home on visiting day. They're not going to go.
Brett is extremely helpful and hands-on in ways that I see other dads aren't. So I feel very lucky in that way. And, you know, even like he will be the only dad in a room full of moms a lot of the time. Like he's great in that way. But maybe it's just the control freak in me, like needing to make sure everything is done a certain way. But I don't know, somehow just getting everything on one page myself feels easy.
Right. Do you feel as though there's something there in what you're modeling for your kids? Do they know that you're in charge of more than Brett?
I don't think they know that. No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
I think they know we're both in.
You know, I think moms
That you're-
never get enough credit for all the
Right.
things they do, like birthday presents and all the little things that nobody thinks about until the last minute.
But I think that's great that like both your boy and girl are seeing that it at least to them it feels like a team.
Yeah.
And not like mom's doing it.
And
I think that's important.
We definitely are a good team. The other question
Was about like how you portray work to them as like the threat to time with you.
Yeah.
Obviously not, but do you know what I mean? The inadvertent like why do you have to, you know, yeah.
I think, interestingly, I think it's less about work that they feel takes away time from them. Like they seem to respect and think it's cool that I do what I do, and they don't know what he does, but they, you know, know daddy goes to work. More so it's, you know, why do you have to go out to dinner? Or why aren't you putting me to sleep tonight? Because that kind of is our only time with them on a weeknight. It's that 6 to 8 p.m. That's all
Right.
we've got. So when we have a dinner plan, that's when they get upset. It's not about going to work every day
Right.
because
always
I think
go to dinner.
yeah, it's
Always go to dinner. We're always home. But that one time we do go.
Right.
You know, that's
it's like a threat to their time.
Right.
So
But not like why didn't you pick me up or this or that, because they know where you are.
yeah, and I
what to
think
expect.
we've built a team of people who our kids really love and who they respect and who we treat as family, so they feel like they're, you know, with family when
Right.
they're not with us, and sometimes they are with family when they're not with us. So I think that's part of it, is like building out support
Yeah.
when you're
of
working,
people
when-
who
especially
can
when
step
you're
in
working
when
there.
you're not there, who feel like almost as good as the real
Yeah.
deal.
And they know that they're family as well.
Yeah. And I think like if you approach it with that sort of like confidence, like mommy goes to work, like you go to school and
Right.
it makes me happy,
Right.
is so important.
Yeah, and I think also inviting them in. Like I bring my kids to my office on weekends once in a while.
Yeah.
Or, you know, we had our Taylor Swift moment and my kids were so proud to be able to tell people that mommy made jewelry for Taylor Swift. So, or even like beading on the weekends and making bracelets like mommy does in her office. I think there's a part of them that has pride for what I do, which is very cool.
And
Yeah.
Jordan now with Minecraft, he builds homes.
Mm-hmm.
And like he like shows me all the homes he's built, and I kind of explained to him like, oh, that's kind of like what, you know, daddy does. So I think he also then leans into it more because he
Right.
and it's kind of a way for us to bond. So he's always trying to show me what is being built in, you know, which is where I think the iPad is good.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see like what he's building, and he's like building like an apartment that's similar to ours.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really
It's like it's
kind of amazing.
it's incredible.
Yes. When like it's used in that way.
Yes.
In the
especially.
right way, yes.
I will say one more thing that I think we've set ourselves up for success in that, like, we chose a school for our kids where everybody gets on a bus in the morning and everybody gets dropped off on the bus. So there is I don't have that guilt that I had when they were in nursery
Right.
school of
Drop
Them
off.
seeing
mommy's
other
not at
people.
drop off.
Yeah.
It's everyone takes the bus.
The mommy
you know?
club at the, you know, at drop off, you know.
It's a thing.
It's
I
a
know.
thing.
And it definitely
is.
like leaves me with some guilt, but it's also like, this is my reality.
Yes.
And they get it. And when I can, I do.
And I think it's so important, even if like, you know, if a mom is at like their after school activity and you're not, that even when there are the moms there, to not portray it as like, even if they're like, why weren't you there? When we respond with this like unsure, like guilt, we're like apologizing for who we are. And I think it can create more anxiety. I've been there. So I just like really admire that you haven't gone that route and think it like matters so much for anyone listening. Before we go, I'm curious, were you guys raised by two working parents? You can go first, but I'm just curious.
I had one working parent.
And what was your experience?
I always had a babysitter who, funny enough, is still basically our babysitter. I mean, she, not mine so much, but my sister's. Yeah. She started with us when my sister was born, and she, until like 2 weeks ago, was still going to my sister's apartment.
Helping.
And basically sitting with her dog.
And how did you feel about like that upbringing?
She was like family. And you know what? Most of my friends' parents drove them to school. Their mom drove them to school, and I took a bus. It was just how it was. My mom wasn't working, but she still put me on a bus. And I do think when I was younger, I felt it was unfair, and I didn't really understand why. And I think that I looked at friends whose moms were more present or were willing to drive them to the mall or pick them up from a party as like the cool moms and the nice moms. And sometimes I look around when I'm with my son and his friends, and I'm like, I bet they think I'm not nice. No. I bet they think I'm not the cool mom because I'm not saying yes to the iPad and I'm not saying yes to Sprite, and and that
that's
gets
not
me.
Why you thought that was cool.
Oh. No, but it's
right.
It's the same kind of thing. Like she was willing to be there and mine wasn't necessarily, and they're willing to say yes and I'm not. I don't give in that way.
Like you said, you don't want to be bad cop, and that
yeah, my mom was bad cop for sure. So I don't know. It plays in my mind, but it doesn't really affect how I run my life.
And I think you're clear on giving to your kids like where mommy is.
Yeah.
And that helps them make sense of it. Mm-hmm. I think it's just about like being able to have a narrative that makes sense to them, that doesn't make them feel bad, right? And having like the answers.
Right.
What about you?
Well, my dad was a working dad who was around, but not around, that much. And I was a complete mama's boy. I would hang out with my mom all the time. My mom didn't work. But I think she gave me the tools to be able, I think she was also helpful in giving me the tools to mature. So I think she like allowed me to do the things that I wanted to do, but I was a complete mama's boy growing
like you
up.
Leaned
so
on
I
her,
leaned on my mom.
She was much more nurturing than my mom ever was.
She was a huge nurturer. And I think, are we nurturers?
You are. I'm just harder around the edges.
Yeah.
That's just how I am. But that's how I was raised. There wasn't like, we didn't say I love you in my family all the time. And we weren't like hugging and kissing when we said goodbye. But those are things that we do with our kids now above and beyond. And I think those were things I didn't know until Brett introduced them. And Brett and I met in high school. And well, no, we met in middle school. But when we started dating in high school, like he would say, I love you to my sister. And she would be like, what? But then he became family to them when we were teenagers. And I think that's something now that we all took forward. I mean, even seeing my parents with my kids, they're so different than they were when they were with me as parents. So I think you just kind of need to see it and feel it to want to lean into that. So I would say I'm much more nurturing than I was raised to be.
And before we go, because I know I could talk to you guys forever, you said you're like a little hard around the edges. I will say that maybe, yes, knowing you as a friend, maybe yes upon like initially meeting you, but that like you're one of my warmest friends now. Steph's the one that like sends me things of, that are warm and like friendship oriented. You always have, yes. Brett always one
number
of the
one commenter is Brett.
Yeah. So I think it's like similar to Jordan.
Yes,
warming
we take
up.
a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for coming on. Can you tell people where they could find you both? Brett, you too. Maybe people need help in the real estate area. Where can people find you?
Where can you find me? You can Google me.
Brett's like Maddie Mo. He doesn't want to be found.
Yeah, I don't
Okay.
want to be found. I like to stay like below the radar.
Okay,
I have my
fine.
wife who's like the,
Right. So
You can find me at Stephanie Gottlieb on Instagram and stephaniegottlieb.com.
thank you guys so much. Thanks for listening.
Thanks, Mo Mommy.